welcome back to Tarot Tats and Tea. This morning I'm videoing me actually working through the next part of the Ancestral Grimoire, which is beginning my journey really. And I'm starting off by asking my ancestors, or my ancestor that I met in meditation, what message does the ancestor have for me today? Now, I have used the method very similar to, well, it's very similar, the same as what Nancy Hendrickson used, and I have chosen a card that that I feel I was drawn to, and that's the Eight of Cups. And the Eight of Cups, you know, as we know, it's walking our own path, turning our back on what doesn't necessarily serve us anymore, but what we may have grown tired or fed up of, but also heading out for something new. So it might not be dramatic change, it might just be, well, this is the path I want to follow, so you can either follow and I'll lead or whatever. But the Eight of Cups is my card that I'm using here, so the message from the ancestors will be the card that follows the Eight of Cups. So I'll flip through the deck in a second and we'll have a look and see just what the ancestor has to say to me today. I'm using my Morgan Greer deck for this one because I have my other deck set out ready for use with this part of the chapter, but I'm also using this as my, well, chatty deck. So for my Eight of Cups is here. The Seven of Swords. So today, my advice or the message for me today is be careful. And this actually fits for the day that I've got ahead. I'm here this morning. I've got to go out of a couple of hours, bits and bobs to do today. And I will be meeting and chatting to people. I've got to be careful that people aren't pulling the wool over my eyes, trying to fool me or trying to get either information or anything from me in a sneaky manner. Okay, so Seven of Swords, what have we got to look out for? What is it that could be trying to underestimate me? What could be people that I will be working with today that have the potential to pull the wool over my eyes and ask me to carry out tasks for their benefit, but that could potentially get me into a bit of a pickle, so I need to be wary of that. So that is, today I'm going to be treading very carefully. Thank you very much for that message, because I actually know exactly where this fits today, and I don't want to go into too much detail, but that is amazing that this came up today. Just be wary, keep a lookout, make sure that nobody's actually taking me for a fool, and equally make sure that I'm not shortchanging myself in my own doubts and concerns about my own abilities, because like that, sometimes it might not be other people that are shortchanging us or trying to pull the wool over our eyes, but we could be doing that to ourselves by not having the belief in our own skills, talents and abilities, okay? Not having the belief in anything that we do that pertains to us, that could help us with our growth, whether it's growth within our working life, within our relationships, within our ability to do, to create, to be. So basically, this is A, have faith in me, and B, don't let anybody pull the wool over your eyes, okay? So thank you very much for that advice. It is very, very good advice for the day that I have ahead of me. And let me see here, just check my deck. I absolutely love the Morgan Greer deck. So I decided, whilst I was sitting here this morning, that I wanted to add it to this ancestral work. The Morgan Greer deck for me has that feeling of agedness, has that feeling of, I find it speaks very clearly to me. And I find that it's everything I like in a deck. I don't know if you're watching one of my other videos at some point where I was discussing the Morgan Greer. Many moons ago, I decided to edge my Morgan Greer deck. Well, did I make a pig's ear of that? It's edged nice in the blue, but look, all my cards, it's seeped in. So I bought myself a new Morgan Greer deck. But this bleeding of the blue ink into the cards gave it an added feel, gave it an added, I don't know what it did, but it sort of had a magic effect on it. And whereas some might deem, well, the deck's ruined, whatever it did, it enhanced it. And I feel that I can work even better with this. So the new one I got, I gifted to a friend, and I'm now using this one, whereas I've got the Universal Celtic and the Tarot of the Abyss set out in the major, minor and the quartz in those piles ready for work. This is my chatty deck. So whenever I've got a question to ask and I don't want to mess up the decks I'm using, I will pick up this, and this will do my daily draw, and it will also be my chatty deck. So if I have a question for my ancestor and I do what I've just done now and I seek out the Eight of Cups, I'll take the card that's behind that for my message, for my answer for the question I've just asked. Should my Eight of Cups be the last card in the deck, then I take the message being the card in front of it. So let's get on our way. In the last video we discussed the supplementary cards that I've shown you that are kept in the front of my Ancestral Grimoire book, okay? And we discussed the sigils and how I was, excuse me, how I was going to be working and dividing up my Ancestral Grimoire. And I've made the decision that it's going to be divided into the seasons. So we're starting off with winter, and because I wanted to start off now, rather than starting off in December, because that's at the back of the book here, and I wanted to sort of work through this chronologically to a degree, because I'm breaking it up into months, I'm sort of starting January, and February will be the winter, and then March, April and May, with that being spring, I'll work through those 3 months together, and I can do all this sort of paperwork, but then do my extra stuff throughout those 3 months without thinking, oh, I've got to get this done, I've got to get that done. You know, I can do the whole lot of book work, but then any deeper work I can go and delve in, and that will bring me nicely round to next winter being December, and I can do the very first big part of winter, and that will round up our year of Ancestral Grimoire. So January, first part, this is the winter section in my grimoire, is family magic, and we're looking at inherited magic. So for this I need my tarot, pendulum and sidewalk oracles. And remember, sidewalk oracles are the signs and symbols that we see in everyday life when we're out walking, when we're out exploring in nature, or even if we're just walking around to the chippy to get a bag of fish and chips, okay? It's what you see, whether it's little robins coming down and having a little chat to you and following you along, whether you see butterflies, although now in the winter we probably won't see any butterflies, but anything you see or deem as a sign or symbol, you find a feather, you find a penny, that sort of thing, anything that's in nature or around you outside. Have I had any sidewalk oracle experiences since I last spoke to you all? Do you know, I actually have. I got into my car and I looked, I thought, where, and it was about that long, a lovely white feather in the footwell of my car. Where it come from, I don't know. Message from my ancestors saying, we're watching over you, Elaine. I have had little robins follow us about. My sister went for a walk the other day, and she won't be aware that I'm putting this here at the moment, but she went for a walk up to some beautiful waterfalls in Wales, and a little robin followed them along, and I for me, that's a sign that my dad was with her on that walk, you know, and it's just nice to see, it's nice to feel, you know. And there are lots of little things that build up during a day, whether it's coincidental. People can put it down to coincidences. I don't necessarily think, oh, well, that's coincidental. That's a sign. So, right, let's have a look. Now, my first activity was to step in, before I went into this, was to step into the Land of Tarot. That was a very interesting activity because it was much deeper than just stepping into a card. You're actually stepping into the Land of Tarot, where you have, you're sort of envisaging all the characters from them, whether it's the major or minor arcana, whether they're courts, whether they're not. When just walking around, it's like you have stepped in and all the characters you see are characters from the tarot deck. Sometimes you could have somebody come towards you, so and chat to you, and you chat back, okay? In your mind's eye, you chat back. Now, when I did this, what happens is you sort of get lost in your imagination. And you say, well, is it imagination or is this it? Is this in the Land of Tarot? Don't doubt yourself, because when you start doubting the whole process. It's like anything. The minute you stop believing in it, it all changes, and you think, is this real? Is it make-believe? What is it? So if a tarot character comes up to you, that could be it's the archetype of that character that is representing your ancestor. Okay, so if you have the High Priestess come up to you, the High Priestess could represent her. It's all her qualities are the qualities that the ancestor that's trying to come through to you will have. So that this is what I did. I enjoyed using my intuition. I enjoyed study. I enjoyed learning. I enjoyed having that key to knowledge. I worked with the moon phases, etc., etc. Okay. Now, for me, when I was doing this, it was a case of, right, I stepped into the Land of Tarot, but a tarot character, I didn't feel that it was an actual tarot character. Now, to all intents and purposes, the way the person looked could have represented the image of the traditional image we have of the hermit, long white hair, beard, and sort of a gown, sort of almost looked like Moses, so to speak. And yet the vibe was not all hermit vibe. I got the person looked older, but had, although did have that quiet, calming air about him, chatted, and I just in my mind I said, are you an ancestor? And it was yes. Right. Now this ancestor loved poetry and loved to sing. Well, clearly that gene for singing missed me. If anything, I had the door slammed in my face when it came to giving out voices for singing. That's a dead cert. But this person, I asked, were you from, for whatever reason, I looked, now you're not from my father's side, and it was no, from my mother's side, which I was very surprised, because I expected someone from my dad's side to come through, but this was definitely from my mother's side. This was going back into sort of mid-century Wales of the 1200s, which is the 13th century, so going from the sort of 1200s into the early 1300s. I asked, what is it I'm supposed to be doing? And the words I got, they were sort of, you could almost see like somebody talking, but you couldn't hear, but words popped into your head, and it was look, see, feel, read the signs and symbols. So it's trust what you're seeing, what you're hearing, what you're feeling, what nature and the world around you is telling you. Trust it. Trust what you get as being messages. This person indicated that they liked storytelling and they liked poetry, which put them under the umbrella then of bardic, sort of, you know, sort of very much a bard. Now, a bard going back to the 13th century would have been somebody who might have travelled from place to place, not going across the water as such, because there was no travel like that then. It's not like it is today now, obviously, but might have walked, wandered from village to village, very much like, you know, a wandering minstrel, really, making their money and getting food through telling stories, through poetry, through just keeping up old tradition. Okay. Also, what was very interesting, he had a staff, and whilst he was talking, he was just marking the ground with lines and dots. And I just said, "Did you have an interest in geomancy?" And it was yes, yes. So whatever was going on, this individual had as an interest in an esoteric topic. And geomancy is something that I have been studying myself, in the sense of, you know, just trying to work it out. It's just something I came across when I ordered one of the tarot decks I ordered. It came with the geomancy coins, and I had been working through that, and that's a while back. I really need to revisit that. It was almost like he's saying, get back to it, look at it, you know. The area that I found myself in had rolling hills, and in sort of rocks in the hillside that could have been cave-like openings. So this is going back quite a way, okay? And all this person said was, now is the time. So it was like saying, now is the time to communicate. We've been trying for long enough. It's only taken you 56 years, you know. Now is the time to talk, to look and listen. Oh, I can't read what I put there. Look and listen for the truth. Look and listen for the truth. So that's not just in this, but that's in everyday life. And that fits in very much with the card that we drew today, really. Look and listen for the truth. Make sure you're being told the truth and that you're not being led down the path, okay? I sat and I had my hands like that on my knees, and there was a lovely warm feeling in my hands, as though somebody was just doing that and holding my hands. It was a very, very calming, relaxing feeling. It's one of those you didn't really feel that you wanted to step away too suddenly. However, this person said to me, right, that they are with me all the time. Would that be how I have now become so engrossed in all this? Am I being encouraged from past lives, from my ancestors, the people that went before me? This person will be with me to guide and teach. It's another sentence. It's been a long time happening. And then I was dismissed. It wasn't that I wanted to step out of this. It was, go now, because we're going to meet again. So I stepped back, and I came back into the room, and this is where I wrote everything down. It was quite an amazing feeling. I expected another side to my ancestors to come through. They didn't. And I asked a question. I said, why did this this other side of ancestors not come through? It's not that I didn't want my mum's side to come through. I really am delighted, because this was so new to me, so unexpected, and it was they're worried about what? Worried about me being angry, and angry about what? So I said, we'll cover that again, right? And then I said, because I wanted to know, was this person English speaking? Was this person Welsh speaking? And you know, going back to the 1300s, it would have been quite a different Welsh to what's spoken now, a different English too. And I said, well, what language is spoken? And he said, the language that the people understood. Go now, we're going to meet again. And that was it. So when I was writing down who appeared, a bard-like male, long white hair, beard, very hermit-like, but no name was given. Okay. Did I use cards or did I use visualization? I used visualization because for this there's two methods. You can use your cards or visualization. I enjoy visualization, so I used that. So what I then did, I then made use of my board and pendulum, and it was a case of asking questions about the visualization and getting the answers, and they really did support each other. So I asked things like, oh, were you an ancestor of my mother's? Yes. Okay. I asked if you are, give me, swing towards the first letter of my mum's Christian name, and the pendulum swung in the direction. If you look there where the G is, there's nothing directly opposite, and it swung to the letter G. Okay, so that was very, very interesting. Now, I then decided to use Google and look at what Wales was like in the 1300s. So the bards were the earliest. This is panegyrics. I'm not sure what that is, but they spoken in eulogies. They dated from the 6th to the 13th century. So the 13th century was when they all started fading out. So this person is coming at the back end of when bards were quite prevalent in society. There was this bard-like life was unique and vital. Bards were unique and vital to the cultural identity of Wales. It's where they, sometimes the bards were employed by wealthier families to recite poetry, to read stories, and that's how they made their living. Other times bards, like I say, were like the wandering minstrel going around from town to town, where they would entertain the villagers for food and bed and board. Okay. In medieval Gaelic and Welsh society, a bard or bard, B-A-R-D-D, the sound on the end, was a professional poet employed to compose elegies for his lords. Okay, now the archetype I got from this was that he was the archetype of the fool, stepping out, wondering, not knowing what was coming, taking that leap of faith by going from village to village, town to town. Very much that sort of air of, let me just see if I can find the fool here, the air of that freedom, doing what they want to do, not settling down, relying on their skills and talents, and just not knowing what's coming ahead of them. It's very, in a way, there's an innocence to it, there's a beauty to it, there's a romanticism to it, but equally there was a danger to it as well. They were on a path on their own, living quite a reclusive lifestyle in the sense of not settling down. They would be pretty much on their own, creating their stories and songs and poetry. When I say reclusive, I don't mean they blocked themselves off from society as a whole, because they were providing a service. They were providing a service of song, of art, of sharing their skills and talents. But to do that, they had a very solitary life. They were leaving settled families, settled communities, and walking off one place to another under their own steam, in their own company, and quite happy in that lifestyle. But like it says, the bards existed from the 6th until the 13th century, which fits in so well, before I even had a look at that, with when we drew the supplementary card of male in the 13th century, and then we did the meet the ancestor, and it all just fitted like a hand in a glove. So that's where we're at. So for January, for this first part, we have the tarot, the pendulum and the sidewalk oracles are our tools. You are the latest in a family line of inherited magic. What better way to begin the new year than to meet an ancestor who shares your bloodline as well as your inheritance? You may already have a sense of your family's magical skills, even though it hasn't been obvious for generations. I believe deep down we all know from an early age what draws us in and what repels us. Oops. Now, the one who waits. I used method 1, going into the land of tarot. And Nancy opens this chapter, this section up with, my guess is this ancestor's been waiting for you for a very long time. There are at least 2 ways for you to find out who it is and to make a connection. Well, what did I say the words were? And actually, that's the first time you're actually reading that sentence in full. It's been a long time. Now the time is right. Okay. Go to the land of tarot. Trust that the person you meet is the person you're meant to meet. It could be a court card, a minor arcana person, or an archetypal major arcana. If you choose this method, trust me, the ancestor will come forward to meet you. That's exactly what happened. So then, who appeared? Did you draw a card or visualization? Visualization. Then it says, if you drew a card, was it upright or reversed? Is this ancestor you in real life? No. And real life would be the 21st to 20th century. How would you interpret this card as a magical person in your lineage? So that's if you chose to go the card route. I've recorded everything in my book there. Now, next, draw a major arcana card asking for the archetypal energy of the ancestor. I drew the Fool. And, here we go. So, this is where we're up to. I drew the Fool. And it says here, for example, a wanderer archetype can be the Fool, but also the Moon. And an altruist could show up as the Hanged Man for sacrifice, the High Priestess for inner knowledge. The world's cultural and religions are filled with archetypes that we can tap into all the time. Okay? So that was a very interesting thing for me. If there's still you're uncertain, you can draw runes, you can use your pendulum more. So let's have a look. What is the archetypal energy for your January ancestor? Now remember, I'm using this a month early because I'm doing it in seasons. Intuitively, how does this feel? If your magical ancestor stayed in the metaphysical closet, is it possible that the archetype may seem way off base because it wasn't something your family ever discussed? How then would you even have an inkling about the magic? If this is the case in your family, it's natural that it may feel off base. Does this feel off base for me? It actually doesn't, and I'll tell you why. It's not something that we've actually sat down and discussed, but for me, I have a love of literature. I have a love of poetry. My mother has a love of literature and poetry. I have a love of all things esoteric. I have a love of divinatory skills and abilities. I have a love of any tools that fall in under that umbrella, and I like to explore them all. And this fitted in my likes, fitted in the umbrella of this person that came forward. The person was Welsh, a proper Celt, a bard, loved poetry, loved storytelling, and also the fact that he was tapping with the stick, and I sort of thought, why? Geomancy, making the lines, the dots and what have you. Yeah. And I thought, that's what I love. So does it feel off kilter or off base to me? No, it actually doesn't. Could it be said that maybe I'm trying to make it fit what I want in my sort of delving into my ancestral grimoire? Yes, people could say that, but then it comes down to belief. I believe that this came into my radar mentally because it was meant to. Okay? after using your tools, you now know even more about the ancestor, but do you know what magic they shared with you? Now this part we haven't done, so we're going to do this together. What magic they shared with you. If you can't tell by cards that you've already pulled, pull 3 to 5 minor arcana and let your intuition guide you. Also, look at the suits you're drawing, as the elements contained are important clues. So we're going to take the minor arcana. I'm going to give them a shuffle. Now I've got the cards set out. This is my Universal Celtic Tarot, and it's in the piles. I've got my majors, my courts and my minors all set out, ready to be used as necessary. Right, I'm going to draw 5 cards from the top. Just give it one more shuffle till it feels right in my hands. And I'm going to take 5 cards because I'm greedy like that. Go for the max. Okay. So 5 cards from the top. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, we've got quite the mixed bag. I have 2 wands, 1 cup, 1 sword and 1 pentacle. So I've got the biggest number of the two. I've got 2 wands, so that's the overall the weight. It's weighted towards wands. So what's wands? Fire magic, like smoke divination or candle magic. Okay, so I use candle magic. In fact, I've got them all lit up here now. Cups, healing or scrying. Well, we've got the 9 of cups, healing or scrying, you know, and I practice Reiki and I scry with, I actually use I've got 2 of these, a small one here and a larger one downstairs. I use my mirror, okay? I scry with my black mirror. I also have a crystal ball that I like scrying with, and just staring into candle flames. Like I said, I love all aspects of this sort of life. So let's see what swords. Communication magic, may even be bird whisperers. I don't know about bird whisperer, but I love birds. In fact, my husband and I had a day off on Monday, so it was getting all the bird feed and heading down to our local pond that's iced over and feeding all the birds. I've actually got the ducks and eating at my hands, and I'm trying to get the crows to do the same. The kittiwakes pulled the bread out my hands too, which was great. And pentacles, land of magic. Pentacles, which is land or money magic. Now, I've got the 6 of Pentacles here. Land or money magic. Now, Ancestor, if you're listening to me, if I do have any form of land or money magic, let me get it to start working for me now. Okay. Land magic, I love growing stuff. I have a greenhouse, I grow my own herbs, I grow my own vegetables. I'm making plans for my garden, and hopefully that'll turn out nice when I get round to it in the spring. So land magic, maybe money magic. Cross my palm with silver, please. Thank you. Give me the skills. So you can see when we do this and we look at the cards, what aspect of our ancestors with us, and predominantly for me it's fire magic. Okay, it's when we say fire magic, it's also a passion for what we do. You know, wands are, you know, what we're good at, and very arty. And arty doesn't just mean painting and crafting. It's the arts, you know, and being very passionate about it. And here we've got the Page of Wands and the 6 of Wands, which are very, very strong cards, you know. I like this sort of, it's sort of victorious in what you do, successful in what you do, and also the innocence of the page and being, you know, new and excited about all this sort of stuff. So that is the sort of feeling that fits well. It fits well. So we return to the major arcana that we drew, which was the Fool, and see if there are hidden clues in the card. For instance, now this said if it's a wonder, it could be the Fool or the Moon. So we're going to take out both the Fool and the Moon card. And why was it a wonder? Yeah, because, you know, they wonder by day and by night, don't they, the bards? So let's have a look, and we'll just pick out the cards I had again. Did I just go and pop them in on top? Six of Pentacles, that was right. There we go. There we go. There we go. Oops. So that's all fine. We'll just have a look at these along with the majors and see what other clues that we can get from these cards that could tell us a little bit more. You know, I said to you what images came to me, and it was the mountains, the hills, which we often see on our Fool's card, Fool's Journey. What I like about the Moon card in this is that we look here, we've got our stone circles. This is going back to practicing a lot of Celtic practices at the time, and pagan practices, and you know, it screams Wales. It screams sort of poetry, romantic arts, somebody, you know, in touch with their feelings, in touch with their quiet side, in order to bring about the ability and beauty of words, of literature, communication, strong communicator, because they're going around orating here, there and everywhere. And just, there's a gentleness about this. There's a real peaceful feeling from these cards here. And that's how I felt when I did this visit to the land of tarot. Now, if you still find that it's a mystery, okay, you get your pendulum and a piece of paper. You know, I use the pendulum board, so I don't need to make a pendulum layout. Use your pendulum to see if you get an energetic hit on any of the words. So yes, that's fine. I didn't have to do that because I found that everything worked very, very well. Now, what I've got to do now is practice the skills. Practice the skills that I have already. That's what it tells us to do here. Practice our skills. Don't hide them under a bushel. Don't be afraid of them. Don't be ashamed of them. Because it's, you know, sometimes I've just gone, there we go, put those there. Sometimes we can be a little bit concerned that we worry too much about what others think. My philosophy is I practice this because I enjoy it. It's causing nobody any harm, and it's not causing me any harm. I'm not going to hide this under a bushel, and what other people think of me is none of my business. Okay, so that is what I'm going to put out there to you too. If you enjoy doing this, get on with it. It's what you believe, it's what brings you happiness. Do not be influenced or controlled by anybody else. Be yourself. Be the fool. Be the one to take your own path. And be the one to listen to those messages of your ancestors. I have totally enjoyed sharing this with you today. When you get to the point that you have you accept your own magical lineage, which I think I accepted before I even started this, you do begin to see signs and omens everywhere, okay, that seem to weirdly relate to what you do, what you believe in, to your magic. Each one of us is a magical being. Just the fact we're here makes us magical. Not everybody would agree with that, not everybody believes in that, but that's down to everybody's own rights to believe in what they want to believe, okay? So for me today and going forward, sidewalk oracles or omens are one of the easiest ways to begin practicing and improving your skill. Regardless of what it is, instead of seeing a snowdrift, a bin lorry, a fence, you'll begin sensing each one of those objects as a message. The tarot is limited to 78 messages. The world of sidewalk oracles has an infinite number. Are you open to a little augury? Take a turn outside and see what you find. The intent here is to gain more information about your inherited magic. Now, I don't want you to be looking at birds or bird entrails, okay? But pay attention to the birds themselves. Keep an eye out for things like direction of flight, the species of birds, flying solo or in a group, the colour, song or no song. And remember the augury used by the Romans. Apply your newly found skills to work with bird energy. For example, if a bird is flying west, what does that mean to you? For Nancy, it was about going inside her bear cave, but the direction must be meaningful to you. For me, if a bird is flying east, it's going back to my roots in Wales. When I was teaching, the very first class I taught will always be here with me forever. Every child I've ever taught will always be here. But the first year, they used to call me the beast from the east, Welsh dragon, the beast from the east. So I'd call them the pest from the west because we're the two sides of the Irish Sea. So east is going home, yet here is home. Going west to the west of Ireland is going back to ancestral roots. So there's a lot there for me. I grew up as a child in South Africa, so going south would mean heading Africa, which is sort of not heading to my roots, but to my developmental years. What was it about that? If something's flying south, could that mean to me? Do I need to refer back to a lesson I learnt growing up if I'm struggling with something? Going north as yet, to me, would be escape, would be heading off for a little bit of freedom, because there are no particular northern ties, okay? Everything here means a lot more. It's like a broiling pot of information of different aspects of my lives, from my the east for my birth and my initial development, to the south for my that sort of intermediate stage of our lives, from say 6 to the late teens, and west to ancestral roots. I've got ancestral roots in the east, I've got ancestral roots in the west. The two have met, and here I am. Okay, so that's how I look at it, and I've shared that with you. Maybe that will help you to decide if you're going to look at birds, the flight of birds. Songbirds, I love songbirds. I love nature. So there's going to be a lot for us to do, a lot to see. So whatever you're doing, whatever walks you go on, whatever pictures you take, and whatever drawings you do, whatever notes you take, just visual memories. Enjoy this project, enjoy your day, enjoy your life, and I'll see you on the next lot of Ancestral Grimoire. Bye now.